Top 5 bow strokes every player should know. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Megan. I'm a violinist and teacher. I've been playing the violin for over 20 years. I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I'm Suzuki trained. If you're enjoying my videos, please just take a quick second to make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. It really helps me out and it really means a lot to me. And if you're interested in working with me, you can check the description for a private lesson application. I teach one-on-one online private lessons, as well as my online self-paced learning program, Learn Violin Online. In this video, I'm going to describe to you the top 5 most common violin bow strokes. I'm going to tell you their names, how to play them, how you know you need to use them, aka what markings indicate them. And obviously this is not an exhaustive list of all bow strokes there are, but I do have a video that is much more expansive, which is 27 bowing techniques that I'll leave linked in the description in case you're interested in furthering your knowledge. So bow stroke number 1 is détaché. So the name of détaché sounds a little bit confusing because it sounds like detached. However, détaché means to play the notes with separate bow strokes, aka you're changing bow directions on each note, but the note should be smooth. In other words, there should be no space or no stop in between the notes. Each note should flow one right into the next. This is the most basic violin bow stroke and likely the one that you will learn first, and it requires no special markings over the notes. So if you don't see anything over the notes, you should play détaché. Détaché sounds like this. So as you could tell, I was changing bow direction on each note, going down, up, but I was doing so smoothly, aka there were no pauses or no spaces between the notes. Now, how do you do this? How do you switch smoothly? Well, the very basic thing is that you do not want to stop your bow, aka you want to keep your bow moving through the bow change. That is bow stroke number 1, détaché. Bow stroke number 2 is legato. Legato specifically refers to notes that are underneath slurs. So as you can see, there is a curvy line that connects these notes. That is a slur. So when notes are underneath slurs, they are played legato. Now, sometimes I get a little bit of pushback when I describe legato this way because some students think that it just means to play the notes smoothly, and it doesn't necessarily require slurs. However, on the violin, that is incorrect. Legato specifically refers to notes underneath slurs. If you don't believe me, you should check out Ivan Galamian's book. Ivan Galamian is one of the most famous pedagogues, which is just a fancy word for teacher, in the violin world. And he wrote a book called The Principles of Playing and Teaching. I had to study this book in college, and he goes through all of the bow strokes and gives specific definitions for each of them. And according to his book, legato is specifically notes underneath slurs. So a slur means to play the notes all in the same bow direction smoothly, which means that you cannot change or vary your bow speed during the slur. Legato might sound like this. So as you could tell, I was playing 4 notes slurred, 4 notes under one bow, and my bow speed was staying even so that each note was the same length and the same volume. So that's bow stroke number 2, legato. Bow stroke number 3 is staccato. So staccato means separated. Staccato is indicated by dots above or below the notes, not to be confused with dots next to the notes because that's a totally different thing. I know, who knew that dots could have so many different meanings? But when playing staccato, you are going to put a slight space or a slight separation between each note. You're going to also change your bow direction on every note. Staccato might sound like this. So as you could tell, I was changing my bow direction on each note, and there was a slight space or a slight pause between each note. You could hear a split second of silence between each. Staccato is most often played in the middle to lower part of the bow, using not a ton of bow, maybe about an inch or 2. However, staccato technically can be played in any part of the bow and with any amount of bow. I feel like staccato is often misunderstood or overcomplicated by beginners because they feel like they have to do something like special or fancy with their right hand. Staccato does not mean accented. It's not the same as up bow staccato, where you do need to do something a little fancy with your hand. All you need to do to play staccato is stop your bow between each note, aka you just need to stop your arm from moving between each note. That was bow stroke number 3, staccato. Bow stroke number 4 is portato. So portato is indicated by slurs over the notes, but the notes have lines either over or under them. So portato, similar to legato, is played all in the same bow direction. So all of the notes that are underneath the slur are going to be played in the same bow direction, either down bow or up bow. However, in portato, you are going to vary your bow speed because you want a slight space in between each note. So at the beginning of the note, you pull the bow with a faster bow speed, and then you allow it to slow down towards the end of the note, creating that slight space. And as you'll notice, these spaces are very gentle. They're not super harsh or in your face. A more harsh or pronounced stop would actually be up bow staccato, which really isn't as common of a bow stroke as you think. There are definitely very famous passages that use up bow staccato, but portato is far more common. And no, it's not potato. So that is bow stroke number 4, portato. Bow stroke number 5 is spiccato. So spiccato is definitely the most advanced bow stroke on this list, but it is extremely common, which is why I wanted to include it. So like staccato, spiccato is also notated by dots over or under the notes. However, to play spiccato, you are going to bounce your bow off the string between each note. The way that you need to use either staccato or spiccato is the tempo. Staccato is slower and spiccato is faster. So spiccato again is typically played in the lower to lower middle part of the bow. And I like to start my spiccato off the string and then just allow the bow to bounce on the string for a second and come off. So in spiccato, you are bouncing your bow off the string in between each note. In order for spiccato to work, you must have a very soft and flexible and loose right hand. Otherwise, one, your bow just won't bounce, or when it does bounce, it's going to sound very harsh. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 violin bow strokes, the most common ones that all violinists should know. Again, obviously this was not an exhaustive list, and if you're interested in learning more about different bowings and different bow techniques, I'll leave that video with 27 different bow techniques linked below for you to check out. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure you subscribe before you go.